Hello everyone, welcome back to the Limited Edition. Gareth here, hope you enjoyed the intro, just a bit of Star Wars influence fun there. Anyway, in this video we are taking a look at the Production Car Challenge. This video is coming off the back of Noah's comment on our Mustang review. He wanted a comparison between the different cars in the PCC, which is what we are doing here. So for completeness though, I've also done some laps in the VW Jetta and the Pontiac Solstice as well. Let's kick things off then with the fastest car in the PCC, which is the Ford Mustang FR500. What a pleasure it was to drive this car once again. Did feel a little boaty when I started out, but I must admit once I'd looped it a few times getting on the power out of the corners, I got acclimatised and wow. The thing that really struck me was just how much feedback I was getting from the rear axle. Once I was tuned into it, I was able to really lean on that slip angle while rotating the car. I could tell when it was going to break away from me and how much was safe, so yeah, really cool. And this car is so much more fun and enjoyable than I think people realise. It's just such a shame to see so few numbers of them in the races. Now the Mustang does have its own series now to go along with the PCC, so it does make it a more viable proposition than a couple of years ago. Maybe the price tag's still keeping the people away? I hope not though. Worth a try. The tyre performance does drop off though through the race. It was nowhere near as bad as when I previously raced this car, so maybe I'm just a bit of a better driver now. I was being caught by the leader of the GR86s by the end of the race though, and my final lap was a full 1.5 seconds down on my best lap, which I did set on lap 3. The next fastest car by world records, and in my experience too, was the Toyota GR86. Now these are really popular in the PCC at the moment as it's a free car, and with Ossersleben being a free track this week as well, it meant there were lots of people hopping in for a race. This was the first car I raced in the series this week, and for my first race I went with medium downforce and I was incredibly slow. Part of that might have been down to the 83 litres of fuel on board though, which is way too much. I then raced the fixed setup, which had more rear wing, like 15 instead of 10, and I was being left behind by a number of drivers earlier on in the race, but then I felt like I was catching them back up towards the end as their tyres started to wear out. So there's clearly a lot of benefit here in fiddling more with the setup to unlock the pace of each car and tailor them to suit yourself. Now I've always really enjoyed racing the GR86 for its crazy late braking and its ease of driving. But the forecast here is actually the blandest one to drive. It's not that it's bad like the Solstice, but it just didn't have the same spark that I got from some of the other options. The MX5 is the third fastest option, and I noticed that the MX5s along with the Toyotas were generally doing the gentleman's agreement of allowing a gap between the classes for the start of the race. You can see here that we got the green flag in the final chicane, and still people managed to crash before crossing the line. Whoops! Now it's been a fairly long time since I last raced the MX5, and I'm going to be honest here and say I've never been massively into driving this car. I always found the previous version to have really poor steering in particular. In fact, in the limited edition it was often referred to as the jelly car. Now the new one is a much crisper, more responsive and a more enjoyable drive all round. I did find it to be the most unpredictable during quick changes of direction though, such as through the chicane before the McDonald's right-hander. Now similar to the Mustang, you can really feel the rotation on the rear axle of the Mazda, but it feels less predictable to me than the Ford. I couldn't tell when I was about to break traction and spin, and it happened several times. Now over a single lap the Mazda is probably a little more fun and exciting than the GR86, but over a race distance the engine note started to sound a bit irritating really, and I found myself wishing I was back in the Toyota. Yeah, the Mazda just felt like a bit more of an exhausting unpleasant drive, whereas the GR86 you could probably just focus a bit more on actually racing, so hence I'd preferred the Toyota over the Mazda. The final and newest addition to the PCC is the Renault Clio. Now, as a front-wheel drive, this is a direct replacement for the Jetta. Despite it starting in the second group of cars behind the Mustang on the grid, the Clio does seem to be the slowest of the four options, well, at Osserschlieben anyway. I do expect that to be a very different story at other tracks. It's also probably reliant on having an experienced driver. My Clio race was only my second race in this car after Knockhill in the Clio Cup, so this was the car I was most off the pace driving. I absolutely loved it. What a hoot to drive. This might be my new favourite sports car on the service. Sure, I'm miles off the pace of the best drivers and I don't know what I'm doing with the car yet, but who cares when you're driving with such a big grin on your face. It's quick on the straights, you can chuck it around and it will probably bite you, but it's awesome. Quick word then on the two replaced cars. The Solstice was not fun at all, and I was glad to park it. In flames! The Jetta felt faster on the straights than it had any right to be, but that exhausting front tyre skip and bounce it suffers from, I was so glad to know I could just jump back in the Clio instead. So here are my best lap times compared to the world record and the best laps of this season. You can see that I'm closest to the pace in the Mustang, then the MX5, followed by the GR86 and the Clio. These are 25-minute races with a pace car lap. The Mustang's grid at the front, then the Clios, the GR86s and the MX5s at the back. There is normally a gentleman's agreement that the lead car of each class will hang back to create racing room to the class ahead, so do bear that in mind if you get pole in your class and you've not raced in the PCC before. Now, even with that racing room, there will often be a bunching up of the classes towards the end of the races. The fastest GR86 drivers will catch the slower Mustangs, the fastest MX5s will catch the slower GR86s, but sadly you'll often have no Clios at all, or a couple at best. And yes, around Osserschlieben, that did cause some issues. This is a bit of a weird series because, as you can see, the cars are all very even on pace, but you'll be racing to win your class. That means that if you're in an MX5, for example, and you've got a slow GR86 holding you up, they could be affecting your race by pushing you back towards your rivals, but also you don't gain anything from passing them except some clean air. Well, that and you get to have an awesome fun battle, eh? Now, in general, I recommend keeping an eye on your relative black box. If you've got another class driver bearing down on you, then you're going to lose less time by easing them by. They might even send you a thank you message too. You're free to race, obviously, but race smart. One word of warning is that because the races are quite short, there are plenty of gung-ho, crash, quit and join the next one drivers in the field. So if you spot them, then drive accordingly. For the most part though, the field is clean and respectful. There's the odd rude person on comments, such as the guy who kept telling people to sell their PC and move to a farm, but hey ho. So in summary, the PCC is a very different world to yesteryear, but the car choice is much improved, so I guess that change was for the best. As to which car I'd recommend you race? Well, if you want lots of drivers in the same car as you, then you're going to pick the GR86 or the MX5. It's a no-brainer because they're free. If you want the most rewarding, on-the-limit drive with some tyre management and the best engine noise, you've got to buy the Mustang. It's almost criminal how few people race it. But if you want to hurt your face from grinning while driving, then you go buy the Clio. And honestly, I'm genuinely shocked how few people have, because it is absolutely brilliant. So much fun. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Here are the LOA socials. Please do give us a like, sub, and come say hi on Discord. Cheers!